Yep, welcome to yet another week of AI, right?
Hi,
So,
Precious. Good morning. How are you?
hi, Neil. I'm good. Good morning.
Good morning.
Another episode. This is episode
Yeah,
14 of the 10x Developer Podcast.
that's cool.
So, how do you feel? 14
That's crazy,
episodes,
right? 14 weeks. I, I think I
14
think this is
weeks.
a
Yeah,
this is a good experiment. I think we should move up. We should upgrade this. And I was thinking this
yeah,
GoPro option in here. I was thinking last week I was thinking of doing that, but this week we should. So next week I think
yeah, we
we are now
should.
going what Twitter and YouTube, right? Is that the two channels we're going for?
Yeah, we are on Twitter
I
and
think we can
YouTube.
add one
Yeah,
more.
we can do
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. We'll add
Yeah,
LinkedIn. We have some folks in there. I think that'll be exciting. Or another exciting week with AI, right? Lots of stuff happening. It's just getting harder and harder to keep up with all this. So again, we curated some stories for you guys. So hope you enjoy it. So I'm going to dive in. Oh, you have an intro question. You want to start with that? Precious, you there? He did mention we're having some technical issues. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I might have to go solo. Um, so the first story we have here is from Microsoft. And then, okay, yeah, all right. Okay, let's do it. That's fine. Okay, the first story we have is with the Microsoft. Microsoft decided, I mean, which is kind of fascinating to see how this AI assistant tool space is evolving. So Microsoft had decided to open source their GitHub Copilot Chat extension. Um, you know, the VS Code, its code base is, I believe it's an MIT license, so it's sort of open source. But some of the extensions, some of the code that GitHub Copilot uses is not free, or it's not open sourced. Obviously, they're getting couple of interesting pressures. Obviously, they're getting lots of pressures from the plugin authors, right? If you're a plugin author for VS Code, you might want to integrate with GitHub Copilot. So that might provide a better integration for the user and code generation, all the good stuff. And
yeah.
and I think there is a tremendous Precious, welcome back. I started with the first story.
Thank
Okay,
you. Yeah,
there is another. That's okay. That's okay. There is another pressure from obviously the AI editor folks, right? So Cursor initially started by forking essentially the open source VS Code from Cursor and Windsurf. So they want to sort of level the playing field. I think it's a really interesting move, obviously, to disrupt the market, and also I think it's good for the developers and plugin authors because now you can build extensions for GitHub Copilot. Speaking of sort of Microsoft and OpenAI, so the next story I have is that we covered this story a couple of weeks back, the Codex, that OpenAI's new um, uh, AI engineer, right? So this Codex, there was lots of complaints after the release that Codex initially was designed to be self-contained. It didn't have access to internet. And when I kind of understand why, because when we started our Tubulian Dev engineer also, it didn't have any internet access. It was by design because lots of organizations really doesn't want your AI tool to go off the internet, download stuff. But there is a downside of that too, because now let's say one of these tools, when they're fixing issues, they might have to add an additional dependency or download a dependency. And Codex had that limitation. So sounds like they have opened it up. So Codex now can essentially go out on internet, install dependencies, run tests that requires external resources, fetching update packages, and all that good stuff. This is becoming really hard. Precious, you there?
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What I was going to say is that we have another sort of AI developer story coming up, but I'm just kind of fascinated how this space is evolving. I think more and more I see that, and I think I feel like we made a good decisions of sort of opening up the 2 billion dev agent. And once I get some cycle, I really want to open source that code. I think that's the only way to sort of level the playing field here.
Yeah, actually.
Okay, this will be interesting. Yeah, I can hear you, but your video is not here. Yeah, I can't hear you, man, at all. So yeah, I mean, let us know if you use OpenAI Codex or what kind of AI developer agent you guys are exploring. I'm kind of curious to hear what's people deciding, because I think it's becoming almost really difficult to kind of decide. The next story I have is, while Precious tried to reconnect again, is there is a new tool out there, a new kid in the block called Factory.ai. So let me share the stories that I've been talking through. I forgot that I can share links. Where is the chat? Precious, you there?
Yeah,
Precious.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So can you drop in those links, because I don't think I have access to that.
Okay,
All the
I will
stories
do
that I'm
that.
talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do the next one then?
I'm still trying to sort out, make sure that this thing doesn't go off again. But if you can hear me, just let me know. Okay, good. Okay, so the first story I have for today is a story from 11 Labs. I think after Google released View 3, a lot of things has been happening. I think even there is this AI company that generates character for people. They've been around even before the whole AI wave came in. I'm trying to remember their name. Um, they've been around even before the whole AI wave came in. Recently, within the week, they announced that they've integrated View 3, so people can now generate moving characters. So let's say, for example, you want to have your own Sandman or you want to have your own Spider-Man. You can not just get a picture of that character and give it like abilities. You can now even create the character and let it do things for you. So, and I think that's going to be a game changer, especially for game developers. Game has been huge here in Africa. I used to work in
Mm-hmm.
games, and it's really a game changer for that. But then we're not talking about that. We're talking about 11 Labs. So 11 Labs, if you know about 11 Labs, they have this voice AI thing, and it's also very interesting how voice AI is getting
They've been around for a long time, though,
traction,
right?
especially
I
here.
think they've been around for a long time too.
Yeah, 11 Labs, they've been around for a long
Mm.
time, yeah. So let's talk about the news, then I'll get into how people have been, talking about voice agents these days. So 11 Labs has released this version 3 called Alpha, and they say it is the most advanced expressive AI voice model. I listened to the model and I honestly do not believe it is AI because it is really good, right? So they said it features inline audio tag like whispers, so you can create like a whole list. Let's say you have a storyline. So in between the storyline, you can add whispers, excitement, laughs, and then as a developer, you can control tone, delivery, and all these things. You can do all these things through prompts, right? So, and you can have a multi-speaker dialogue. I mean, this also brings it closer to the point where this something like this podcast, we just need to write our script, feed it, add laughs, add excitement, add whispers, and then we deliver these things, and we can deploy our podcast in 70 plus languages. We don't need to be there. We just need to write our
Mm,
script, and then AI do the rest. So this is the level that this thing is going. So the interesting thing here is that developers can control inline the whispers, excitement, laughs, and the tone of delivery of their text. And you can all do this thing, and you can also do all these things using prompts. It supports 70 plus languages, and the text to dialogue, no more text to speech, is now text to dialogue API. Right. So they have an API that you can integrate to build this thing into your app and all those things. So this, like I said, is going to improve games, learning tools. Let's say you have like Duolingo is going to get better if they integrate stuff like this. So this is interesting because last week, now this is where I come to talk about the how speech models are getting traction. Last week, someone reached out to me. So apparently, the person saw this podcast and thought I run an AI agency sort of. So he reached out to me. I was like, hey, um, we want to do this thing in Nigeria, and we are looking for people. We're looking for someone to help us build and deploy an AI agent that calls people and inform them about this particular thing that we're about to do. So I think it's a US company. They're trying to do an event. So they reached out to me. They're like, oh yeah, so we want to build this stuff, build and deploy this AI thing that calls people and talk to them about what we are doing. But they want it to be with Nigerian
mm,
accents. I said, yeah. So it was very interesting. I mean, we had like lengthy conversation, very interesting conversation. I tried looking up models that have Nigerian accent. I didn't see any model that have Nigerian accent. I mean, I had like I went like on a wide wind of research with 11 labs. I watched a lot of videos. I read a lot of temp papers, a lot of documents. I had great conversations with them. But yeah, so I think it's getting interesting. Not just the language models, text models are coming into play, and then it's becoming more interesting how people are now coming out to say, "Oh, we want to see this text model, we want to use them, we want to build stuffs with them." So yeah. So what do you
well, that's
think
interesting. I mean, it
about
just
this whole
crossed my
text
mind that
model?
it could be fascinating if we get a kind of co-host, like three, you, me, and then AI
Yeah,
agent sort of with 11 labs, and maybe wrap it with the VO3. So here, so we're dev, right? One way to easily build is that all the notes that we collect throughout the week, we can feed it to sort of
yeah,
notebook LM that spits out a summary
notebook
that
island,
could
yeah,
give the context we feed to 11 labs. Um, right? You said the script, right?
yeah,
11 labs generates an audio. The same scripts can be fed to the VO3. Then we totally have an
yeah,
like a dynamically generated real-time live AI co-host,
yeah.
like reacting to the
Co-hosts
conversations
whose
we are
language are
having. That'll be
talking.
fascinating. Those kind of
Yeah,
things take your
to be
podcast
fascinating.
to, like, I don't know, top, right? I mean, people, this is how
Yeah.
you make it viral. If
Yeah.
anyone listening, devs,
If
do
I
it.
go
Do
viral,
it. Make it real time. If you can make it live, that makes it more interesting.
yeah,
Fascinating
that would be
stuff.
more interesting.
Fascinating. I
That would
know
be more
in audio
interesting.
space, lots of
Yeah.
stuff happening here. Drop in the links, Precious.
Yeah.
I don't have access to that. So all the stories. So that, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will do
All right. The
that.
next one I have is FactoryAI. I think this is a new company that recently, I don't know, they've been around maybe, but I heard about them this week. They're building what they call these droids. So this is a direct competitor to Devin AI, I believe. Um, so they're completely focused on enterprises. This is what they do is that uh, I like the problem statement, and I think it's very real. So how we talk about copilots helping you edit one file. Now we have AI agents that can look into your code base and help you with the code base. What this factory AI is trying to do, what they call is a command center, sort of zooms out a little bit. No, this project is one piece of a puzzle, right? in a typical enterprise in SDLC, you have so many other things. You have product requirements in your Jira, maybe Notion, maybe Linear. You have conversations happening in Slack. Your application might be split out into multiple repositories. So based on what I read about them is that they're able to kind of scan all this and take it under one umbrella. So I mean, most of the problems with AI tools is all about context, right? The better the context is, the better this tool performs. So once these tools, the droids, have the context of how your organization, how your enterprise works, then it can start providing sort of help across the SDLC life cycles. So they have droid mode that have long-running regions that can do multiple tasks across fixes migration, and it spans across multiple repositories, which I thought was really interesting. So some interesting stuff happening here. So go check it out. It's called Factory.ai.
Yeah, I wonder why everybody is still like the devin
Yeah,
space. I think that's the same space where Bolt and the rest of them are also playing, and all the big guys are also going into the same
yeah,
space. I saw an interesting one this week, though. This one is the same thing, but only for enterprise
yeah,
solutions.
yeah.
So you just need to plug it. It only does for enterprise. It doesn't work on normal space. So, which reminds me of this news that came out last week. I mean, we didn't cover it, but it was a
Mm,
funny one to me. They said that a particular AI company who also plays in this same space, the space we are
yeah,
talking about, space of code
yeah.
generation, that it was discovered that it was just a bunch of guys in India
I
writing the
heard the
code in the back
story.
end.
So somebody said, yeah. I felt like that was meme. I thought that was not a real story.
No,
Was it
it
real?
was it
That's
was a real story.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Now it's
I,
I heard a company way back before this LLM. There was a company called XAI. Not the X means the Twitter X. I think the company was, I vaguely remember this. The company was about scheduling. And this is pre LLM, okay? And
yeah.
but they positioned itself as an AI company that kind of automates this machine learning and whatnot. They initially sort of kind of smoking mirror sort of approach, right? They initially had sort of fake it till you make it. So they didn't have the model to automate. They actually had people doing that for you, but they were building model in parallel
Wow.
eventually. Um, but sometimes it's
Oh,
a good product strategy, right? Where you say we do this and just see how market reacts to this before you spend years building this automation and tools. Does that make sense, right? I mean, it takes a lot of time to do that, right? Um, but
yeah, it makes a lot of
but sounds like
sense.
that Indian company that was the only strategy they had. They had no intention to build tools. It's just fascinating.
I mean, I think they were early. I think they were early. I think they were
Okay,
pre-AI,
okay,
sort
okay,
of,
okay.
right? And so they were able to raise a lot of money,
Interesting.
but they never. Maybe they were hoping that this will never happen. I mean, we will not get to this stage, so they keep using their
Okay,
guys.
okay.
Maybe they're a bit slower or stuff like that.
That's fascinating.
I didn't read the full story
Yeah.
though, so maybe I'll read it to get more
I did
context.
hear that.
But I saw
I
the
did
news
hear
and I
that.
was so we have Google upgrades Gemini 2.5 Pro to a stronger reasoning and native audio. Maybe next week cover that, but there's a paper that came out this week. A paper came out this week stating that AI is not reason. I don't know if you saw it. A paper that said that AI is not
Okay.
reason. There is nothing like reasoning model.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe if you, I think the paper is from Apple or something like that because a lot of people have been talking about it on Twitter. Saying that, oh, okay, this is. Maybe I will share. We'll talk about it in the next episode. So, Google Gemini upgrades Gemini 2.5 Pro. So this news, it was announced by, I saw it at the beginning of last week. It was announced by Sundar Pichai himself. He was the one that tweeted about this. I listened to one of his podcasts last week, where he was talking about these models and how powerful they're going to become. Right. So, what are the new things in this model? It is audio. It has audio, native audio output and dialogue. Right. They have enhanced security and thought
Hmm.
transparency. Also, deep think mode and thinking budgets. Now, this is where I want Neil to help us explain this a little bit. They say that this model has 24-point ELO, 24-point ELO increase on LMA LM Arena, now 1470, and 935-point leap on Web Dev Arena, 1443, approximately 1443. So maybe Neil can help us with that because I tried looking it up, but I didn't get like the complete breakdown of what that means.
Wait, I'm a bit confused. So the Gemini 2.5 Pro was already released. They just upgraded that or what?
Yeah, they upgraded it. Yeah, they
With
upgraded
stronger
it.
reasoning and native, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
That
so they're
particular
saying,
LLM arena sounds like another leaderboard. Is that leaderboard finely
oh,
tuned for reasoning models? I mean, there are hundreds of leaderboards out there. Um,
yeah. So, but I think there is a measure. Well, I don't know who measures that, but I think that model. In another news, I saw that Google now has the best model for coding and mathematical
they did upgrade something.
reasoning. Yeah,
So I'm really considering to making that a default for a bunch of other stuff that we're doing with Agent Link. That might be an interesting
but
approach.
when it comes to language, like when it comes to interaction, being human feel, having the human feel, I don't think they are good at that.
Mm, for the audio, you mean?
Um,
For the
eh?
audio, you mean?
No, no, I mean for the text, for the text. So when, let's say I ask
Yeah,
ChatGPT a question and I
yeah,
ask Gemini a
yeah.
question, I don't think I get the same thing. It's kind of
Okay,
different.
okay.
The I think OpenAI still has like the best model when it comes to like
Day to day, day to
human
day,
AI
yeah.
interaction. Yeah,
How
human AI
have you
interaction
made
is
out? How do you decide between which OpenAI models to use in ChatGPT?
I just use the best, highest, the best one. So,
Which is
but
what? GPT
in
4, 4.0.
yeah, I think it's 4.0.
Okay.
Yeah, 4.0. Yeah.
I always default
So I
to
just use GPT 4.0. But
I
in
always default to O3, but O3 is kind of slow. So I'm trying to figure out for day-to-day task, I think GPT 4.0 is good enough. When you sort of need something, hey, I need a
yeah,
deeper discussion and thinking, then I usually go for O3. But so this is fascinating. Now I've
yeah.
started
So
doing
but
that.
On,
But
on Gemini, I always step mine down to 2.0.
why? Because it's faster.
Yeah, because so 2.0 is
Mm.
faster. That's
I
first
think it's
thing.
Flash or
It's
something. Yeah.
faster and yeah, it reasons
Yeah.
properly. So
Yeah.
2.5 for
Yeah.
me, personally for me, it's slow, one, and two, the responses are not very human-like.
Okay.
It's
You,
slow and the
you
responses are
keep saying they're
not
not
there.
human. Like I don't understand what you mean, dude.
So you know when it gives me, let's say I ask, it sounds less
Oh, okay.
robotic.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe I should use that. Yeah, it sounds less
Yeah.
robotic.
You're too sensitive.
So
I honestly.
2.0
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
robotic to me.
So
Yeah. So
one thing I've started doing, which sometimes fascinates me now, you know how there was a time, maybe a few months, it sounds like ages now, but a few months back, there was like this whole thing about prompt engineering, right? You really have to be good at
yeah, yeah,
prompting and stuff. Now, my typical workflow
yeah,
is, and maybe I should not talk about this, people will judge me. My typical workflow right now is that I will sort of quickly create a prompt, okay, with a structure. Like here is your objective. Here is
Okay.
some guidelines. Here is what output I expect. Very standard pattern for a typical prompt, right? Then I take that
Yeah.
prompt, that kind of half-ass, half-working prompt, to ChatGPT and say, refine the prompt for me. And I must say that recently my
Oh,
experience has been is that GPT 4.0 or O3 is becoming really, really good at fine-tuning your prompts. Yeah, really
wow.
good. So I use model to generate prompts. And mainly it is very,
Wow.
I mean, it's a fascinating to also learn. It's been a really good learning experience for me because it's immediately, I specifically struggle with corner cases, right? Where models hallucinates and gets confused. It's very interesting how
Yeah.
this, when it refines prompts, is very crisp and clear about what you should not do, what you should do. And it's really good, guys. I mean, if you're crafting a prompt, use these models to refine your prompts.
Verifying my prompts. Oh, wow. I'm going to try that. Definitely trying that. Feels like a cheat. Feels like a
Yeah,
hack.
yeah, yeah.
Feels
It's
like a
fast.
hack.
It's really, it's always going to make your prompt better. All right, the next story. The next story I have is not sort of story, but a topic that I'm very passionate about. This is a sort of podcast recently published in InfoQ by the I think he's a chief scientist of Microsoft. Sorry, let me quickly check the author here. Yeah, Dr. Emerson Murphy Hill, a principal researcher at Microsoft. And this is focused
Oh,
on
wow.
some of the things that usually organizations cares about, right? The developer productivity, what can we do to improve the bottom line? How can we push out more products, right? I mean, this is how the measurements of AI tools and software development productivity. The
Yeah.
stats looks very fascinating, so I've kind of summarized and I'm gonna go through that and let's have a good, interesting discussions here. So typically, lots of leaders in the organizations go for sort of one size metrics, right? And based on what kind of methodology you follow, they might say, okay, how many lines did we produce, which is a terrible metrics, by the way. Or some organizations say
Yeah.
how many story points. If you're doing agile, they said, okay, how many features we released to kind of benchmark engineers
Yeah.
or engineering teams. What they have noticed is that, and they run this through Google, ABB, and other mid-sized companies, and sort of all this study, the data that I'm going to be sharing here is been sort of surveyed through 4,000 plus software developers. Okay. Um, it turns
Yeah.
out that this is a very complex thing, and which I totally agree. I mean, you cannot identify, focus on a single feature point because all you have to focus on is more like what is the real output you're getting out of the team. And one thing that significantly stand out is was they call it the psychological safety. And I totally get that, right? If
Hmm.
you're working in an organization and team, you have to feel safe, right? You have to feel comfortable that, hey, I'm going to work with this team. I'm going to produce value. If you're all in constant fear of, okay, they're watching me, they're measuring me, they're counting my keystrokes, I don't think that's a very healthy environment to work. And
Yeah.
which makes sense because that's what's ultimately drives into the teams where developers or members feel psychologically safe, have better value and they have better productivity. Um,
Yeah.
there is another thing that sort of so this goes back to the whole team dynamics too, right? Because conventional wisdoms blames meetings, office layouts, even language choices, right? Oh, this I have too many meetings in a week. I'm not getting time to code. I think it's all sort of ties down to saying, hey, are you comfortable working in this team? Are you feel safe? That sort of drives everything there. Um, the,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
so sort of, he's proposing what? Because I've tried to understand what he's trying to propose that we move to.
You know how Steve Jobs used to say this, and it might sound a little cliche, that I'm assuming as a company you have a really your hiring process is based on the type of people you want to hire for your company, right? I know every company is different. They have
Yes.
every different goals. So
Yeah.
you spend all these times and checks and balances after hiring somebody. Then
Yeah.
I think it feels weird when companies have trust issues with those people. Then you have to trust that person, right? You just reviewed and verified and you
Yeah.
identified that this is a good person in my team. This is a right fit. Then what Steve Jobs used to
Yeah.
say, right? I mean, I hire smart people and I want them to tell me what to do, not me telling them what they should do. Right? You
Yeah.
are a domain expert in community management. It will be unfair for me to come in and tell you exactly what you should. You should tell me what I should do. The sort of thing
Yeah.
that gives sort of that safety net, right? I mean, it goes back to me though. I mean,
Yeah.
places where I feel like I was being judged in the measures every day. I mean, I was not productive at all. There was a fear.
Yeah.
Um, Office is sort of thing. I mean, we are a remote first company. I totally also get it that, I mean, we treat remote versus office sort of a binary, yes or no. And the study shows that
Yeah.
this is sort of the vibe, right? The type of work we do. The type of work we do in 2 billion, remote makes total sense. If we get an office in
Yeah.
Nigeria and force everybody to come in, it will not be very productive.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have to go through, I would
Definitely.
share this blog, but there's another point that I thought was fascinating, especially, I mean, we sort of brown colored, right? We're sort of a minority, but it was interesting to see that systematic bias is showing up in code reviews when the PRs were raised and PRs were coming from um, um, and a minority like woman or color, and there were more sort of reviews and checks and pushback happened. But when they removed
Yeah.
the avatar or hid the gender, they saw the PRs raised by women perform better than anyone else out there. So there's always that systematic biasness that also affects our day-to-day work.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
the last bit that I would share, then I'll pause. I know we've gone through the story, but I found it fascinating. And we covered lots of AI tools, right? And we over-index on how it helps you to improve speed and all that. But there is another thing that they have identified, which was going back to minorities and juniors, right? It's hard for them to ask questions on company Slack or open forums, right? Because there is a fear of maybe someone will say that's a dumb question. We all experience that, right? Back in Stack Overflow days. Um, we should have covered the Stack Overflow story, by the way. Anyway, the Stack Overflow days. I mean, I don't know how many times I asked a question and somebody said that that's a dumb question, right? Now, what they have noticed is that the Copilot style agents now sort of democratizing the help, because now I have my own Copilot. I can safely ask questions, maybe stupid questions, maybe some basic questions, and not have the fear of somebody's judging me. That's essentially
Yeah.
accelerating the learning for them, which I thought was really, really fascinating.
Wow. Wow. I think that makes a lot of sense because I mean we this sort of research and this sort of things help to put in perspective and prepare us for what people call the future of work because the future of work right now is AI.
Yeah.
So how do we prepare, the whole asking question bit, the whole how do we prepare having how do I feel when I know that my coworker is AI?
Yeah, exactly.
And then
I love this one because I asked what's a dumb question because I struggle with the front end, right? Sometimes such basic questions like, hey, how this works. Maybe Joy has done something that I don't understand because it's probably sophisticated. I'll be asking
yeah,
some stupid questions like that, and I feel safe to do that in Coupa. I'll never do that in Stack Overflow because people are gonna jump in and um,
yeah,
yeah,
like oh you don't even know what's going on
yeah.
here.
It's good stuff, man. This is
Okay,
good.
so
So here is a link. I'll drop it now. If I know
yeah,
how to share the links now. Go check it out.
wow.
It's a really good read.
Well, yeah, check it out. Okay, so there is a company called Vet Vetsia.
Okay.
Vetsia. So they launched this thing called Doc Prep. So it's a service, it's a generative um is cloud-based preparation for generative AI applications. So let's say you want to you have um
Are you
you have
sleepy, Precious?
no so so remember I was telling you the whole thing. My
Yeah, I know, I
nose
know.
is blocked, so
You're
I'm
not
trying
good.
to breathe and talk through my mouth. So
Yeah.
yeah, you guys forgive me. I get better by next week. Forgive me. I'm not feeling too well today. Yeah. So you know where the doc, let's say you have like an enterprise company, a bank,
Mm,
let me use a bank for an example. So you've been
mm,
transacting for 3 years and you
yeah.
have 5 million transactions, right?
Mm,
And you
mm,
have all these transaction details. Let's say you have 5 million transactions and you have 1 million failed transaction with the details of what happened, why they failed, how you resolve that. You have all these documents, right? And you want to feed it to, let's say, ChatGPT, right?
mm,
Now,
mm.
what happens is that there's going to be hallucination. Let's say you build something like RAG or you build an agent with it, and that's like your information source. You're going to have hallucination. You're going to have the model lose train of thought. You're going to even have difficulty in putting these things, or the output may not be so good. So these doc prep guys built by Vertesia is a solution that helps you to eliminate hallucination and improve accuracy and relevancy of the output of your model. So
Mm.
the two major things that these two things, which is accuracy and hallucination, is the reason why most enterprise, like I talked to some guys that work in the bank and they're like, no, it's not accurate. It's not accurate. Human beings still do better. And then sometimes because they are dealing with money, because they are dealing with people's money with funds, they don't get to um they don't get to how do they explain it? They don't get to trust
Yeah.
AI because I mean they can't
Yeah.
afford mistakes, right?
So this is
So
good.
what this is
This
going
is
to do is that,
fascinating. So there, I've been,
yeah, so it takes your
yeah,
documents, prepare it
yeah,
in a way, and then not give it to the AI model or the AI
yeah,
agent so that
yeah.
it's yeah.
So there is a pattern called,
So it's an
there's a
interesting one.
pattern called, maybe we should have this. I'm really trying to get that one in the local AI conferences too. This is part of that whole eval thing that's happening in the space. I think it sounds like, I could be completely wrong though. Sounds like there is a pattern called LLM as a judge. So what they
Wow.
fundamentally, obviously, they are not manually reviewing this for you. They are also using AI. So there is a pattern now that your AI produces an output. There is another AI as a judge, sort of reviewing your output to say whether that's valid or
Wow.
not. So sounds like they have taken that and productized that approach. That's good. This is a real problem. It's a real problem.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
it is. It is.
we're almost time in here. I
Yeah.
have a last two.
I think we're
Go,
past,
go ahead.
yeah, we're past time. This
Yeah, last story I've
we're
mentioned, and
almost
then
10
we'll
minutes
wrap it
past
up. This
time.
is kind of interesting too, but it's a small one. Um, so windsurf, right? There is another. So Cursor, windsurf is the two sort of competing platforms out there. Windsurf is the one that we covered the story a couple of weeks back. Windsurf is in talks to get bought by OpenAI, is trying to buy them to essentially position
Yeah.
against Cursor, right? They want to have a competing product. Now, Windsurf is like a VS Code, sort of an AI agent editor that lots of enterprises use here too. They use a Claude, obviously Claude Sonnet and Claude Opus. They wanted to use the models, so Anthropic has decided to cut them off. Uh, yeah,
Wow.
so Windsurf, I mean, their logic is sort of simple. They said like it's going to be weird for us to provide services to OpenAI. because OpenAI and Claude Anthropic is sort of a competitor, which sort of sets a precedence, to be honest with you. And they make sense as a business decision. They make sense for Anthropic, right? They want to optimize with the partners that will have a long-term relationship. It doesn't really make sense for OpenAI to use Claude as a model. It doesn't. But this also forces something that we should all be thinking about, that we need to accelerate the open source model, because you building companies heavily reliant on AI companies or startup heavily relying on some of these model providers. If they take the plug off, right, I mean, you're kind of screwed. So
Yeah.
it's weird to see something like
Yeah,
this.
I think open source is going to be the future, sort of, because if you don't open source, I think we're going to have to get to a future where if you don't open source your model, maybe a lot of people will not use it because they'll be scared that you can just wake up one day and unplug them
And
from.
for small companies, it's hard though. I mean, you need a setup, you need all that crap too. But large organizations, I
Yeah.
mean, who is that? I think Shopify went for Llama. Shopify
Oh
fine-tuned
yeah.
Llama model. I think we should cover that story though. So large companies going to go forward. Small companies like us, we have to rely on them till we figure this out.
Yeah. Figure this out. Right. That's a lot of story. So I added a section to our podcast. So every week we are going to talk about. I'm going to ask you, Neil. I'm not obligated to answer. I can answer if I want, but I'm going to ask you one question that is AI related. So the question for the day is: do you tell LLMs, AI model, anyone? Do you tell them thank you or please, sorry? Do you use those words?
I don't think I think I sometimes being very rude with them. I never say thank you. I at
Oh
times, yeah,
wow.
at times I say please. I never say sorry. I yell at it a lot when it makes mistakes.
Wow. I used to feel like yelling at it is a waste of time. So I say a lot of please, sorry, thank you. I say a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of those things. Well, I was surprised today because I mean I already chose the question before this podcast today, but then I was trying to use Gemini to fine tune my
Mm,
topic, the topic for today's podcast, which says Gemini whip and code
mm.
this thing. And then it told me that I think I said please and thank you. I used please and thank you. I started with please help me do this, and then I ended with thank you. And then it came back telling me that, oh, please, you don't have to say please and thank you to me. I'm an AI model. I don't have emotions. And
Interesting.
I find it really
Yeah.
weird. You don't have to explain that to me. You don't have to tell me that you
Yeah.
are an AI agent and you don't need all
I mean,
that.
some people
Right.
does feel, and it's probably a different topic. There is I mean, you can get an emotional attachment. I mean, there is this product called character.ai where you can have
Yeah.
virtual friend, virtual girlfriend. I mean, those
Interesting.
could be emotional bonding there. So
Hmm. Well, okay. We'll find
yeah.
out. We'll find out. All right. So it's been an interesting conversation. This is 43 minutes past the time. And then, so we are 1 hour 13. We're almost 30
We need
minutes
to
late
cut it down
today.
to 30
That's a lot
minutes.
of.
We're having way too much fun.
Yeah, we need to.
Uh, thanks for doing this. I hope you feel better, Precious.
Well, yeah, I hope I feel better too. It's the rain, so yeah, it's rainy season, so I believe we get better. Yeah. So what? How about we make it up to 1 hour? Maybe people will stay with us for one. Maybe they like listening to us. I mean, these days we have an average of 10 people listening to us every
Mm.
day. Well, we'll consider that. We take it down or we
Do we
take
have
it up.
stats for the
Maybe
offline?
everyone
They
comment.
can watch later on too, right? On YouTube.
Yeah,
Okay.
they can watch
Okay.
later. Yeah, yeah, we have that for. So guys, when you watch this, try to comment. Should we make it 1 hour? Should we go back to 30 minutes? Let us know in the comments. All right. So thank you very much for coming, everyone. I really appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your week, of your day, and then of course, happy new week.
All right. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.